It is Tuesday the 7th of March and tomorrow is Women's Day. Whee! Although really it should be Women's Day like every day because like women are basically what make this world, and without women there would not be children. Yes.
There would not be
also
people.
without men really, obviously. But the main thing is the oven that cooks. That just sounds really weird. Let's just forget all that. I thought that I would have a little chat to you guys about something that I've actually talked about before. Some of you might not have seen it before though, because it was literally filmed about 4 years ago. By the way, my makeup is so overdone. You know when you kind of just start with an idea in your head and then it messes up, so you just keep piling it on to fix it and then you don't have time. So I just had to run with it. Actually, I look really scary. So anyway, today's video, I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about my eating disorder, which I'm actually pretty much over. I actually don't suffer with it now, but it's something that I kind of experienced and went through for a massive chunk of my life, and half the time I didn't even realize that I was actually going through it. So I thought it might be a good video just to kind of talk about, and maybe some of you can relate, because actually quite recently I've come across loads of people that seem to have either gone through a very similar thing or are currently going through it. And basically what I'm trying to say is eating disorders are much more common than we think. And that goes for men as well, not just girls. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? I think I probably started to develop an eating disorder at around 16, I'm gonna guess. I actually can't remember properly. I'm gonna say around 16 years old. I was wearing the hijab then for about 4 years, because I put it on when I was 11, almost 12 I think. Basically, around 16 is probably the age I started to notice how I look more, and also notice, boys more. Around 16 is also the age I kind of started to like play with makeup and just try and be a bit more feminine, I suppose, because before that I was like completely like tomboy. Didn't really care what I looked like, just did whatever I wanted, played loads of sports, nothing was an issue for me. And then around 16, I started being a bit more like, I actually look kind of good today. Shall I start wearing eyeliner? Shall I start doing my scarf styles so I look more attractive? I actually don't know like exactly how it started or what, but I just know that ever since I was young, I have always loved food. I've always had a massive appetite. And you know, when you're a kid, adults look at you when you have a massive appetite like, wow, well done, mashallah, all good, she eats well, keep going. And you know, I'm half Egyptian, half English, so the Egyptian side of me would always like pile the plates up really high, have second helpings, and all that business, especially when you'd go over like Egyptian people's houses. Before this eating disorder developed, I never really thought about being overweight or anything. I just ate food when I was hungry and got dressed when I needed to get dressed. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't something that consumed my brain like it would do later on. I don't know when or how it started, but I would always binge. And binging, for those of you who aren't aware, is basically when you get all the food in the world, as much of it as you can, and stuff it in your gob until you can eat no more. And some people really won't believe me when I say I could literally sit here and eat 20 pieces of toast with butter, as well as 3 croissants, as well as 2 Kit Kats, as well as a bag of crisps, like a big share bag of crisps, as well as dinner, as well as an ice cream later. My stomach was a bottomless pit. I wouldn't feel full. I could go on forever and ever, and the only reason I might stop is because, let's say, my mum caught me on like the 6th slice of bread and she's like, Dina, that's a bit too many slices of bread, isn't it? And then I'd just get embarrassed, so I kind of just like stop, or I'd sneak it upstairs into my room. I wasn't a binger where, you know, I had like a secret stash in my room, because like growing up, we had our own bedrooms, but we weren't allowed locks on the doors, and like I didn't have my own TV and things like that. So like it would be very obvious if I had a secret stash in my room. I would just kind of like go down into the kitchen and get things while people were watching TV, and then just like eat it there and then really quickly. Like I'm not even enjoying the food, I'm just like kind of thing. Sometimes even stuff in my gob in the bathroom, because the bathroom had a lock on it. It was just mental, man. And then when it came to being in school, we all had like these weird thoughts about food, and we all had problems with our weight. None of us were really overweight or unhealthy, but we all were like, we need to get skinny, like we need to look like this. I don't know, this is just most girls growing up, isn't it? It's something that it's really hard to actually get away from and try not to be like, you know, somebody who always wants to diet and change their body and isn't happy with their body. It's really hard to not be that person. Yeah, so for example, if we were on like a fat day with our mates, you know, we'd have pizza for lunch and yogurt coated raisins and then a baguette, the break time before lunch. Like we'd just eat on every break, basically. It's really terrible if you think about it, because like I pretty much just remember my whole day being consumed around food. Even when I was on a healthy day, my day would still be consumed around food because I would just spend the whole day thinking about what I'm going to eat next. And if I was on a healthy day, and that healthy day actually did end up being healthy, it still wasn't healthy emotionally or mentally, because all I was doing that day is struggling with not binging. Your whole day is controlled by your thoughts on food. To this day, and I'm 27 years old, my whole day is still controlled by food and what I'm going to eat. And my thoughts are fully consumed by food. It's the most annoying thing on this planet, let me tell you. So yeah, that was the binging kind of situation. Now, a lot of people, you know, you're probably guessing by now that, okay, so she must have been bulimic. So she'd binge and then she'd go in the bathroom and throw it all up. No, I was not bulimic in that sense, but I was bulimic, and there's a term for it. You might laugh, but it's a thing, and it's called exercise bulimia. So I would binge, and then what I would do is exercise for like 3, 4, 5 hours straight until I felt that that must be all the calories I just ate burned. Of course they weren't, but until I kind of felt that. So basically what would happen, I wouldn't even go to the gym or anything, because remember, a lot of my binging times would be in the evenings after school, which meant it was too late to go anywhere. And plus I was no way confident enough to go to the gym and like be a proper gym person like loads of people are today. I would go upstairs to the attic of our house, and in the attic we had an exercise bike, just a little one. And I would go on the exercise bike for 3, 4, 5 hours straight. And it was actually quite a bonkers thing to do, because it could be like 11 o'clock at night and I'm still on this bloody exercise bike. Not normal, okay? So anyway, I did that for a very, very long time. I'm not sure how long, to be honest with you. But I did that for ages, and then I basically did it until one day I broke the bloody exercise bike because I'd used it so much, and it was just like a £20 thing from Argos. So after the exercise bike, I thought, oh, how am I going to work shit off now? I know, let me buy myself a stepper and put it in the kitchen. So I went to Argos and I bought myself like a £20 stepper, you know, like you put it on the floor and it's just like a little stepper. A bit like the moonwalking machine thing in the gym, but obviously nowhere near as intense. So I would go on the little stepper, din, 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 in the kitchen every night, do the whole family's head in because it makes this weird creaky noise and everyone's trying to watch EastEnders. And everybody kind of like knew, like, oh, okay, Dina's eating too much again or whatever. But it wasn't like, oh, eating disorder alarm bells, because I wasn't throwing up and I wasn't starving myself. You know what I mean? And like even on the healthy days, I definitely wasn't starving myself. I'm one of those people that literally can't starve myself. Like I just have to eat. Like I could basically never give up food. So yeah, there were no like alarm bells there, because like if it, you know, from an outside perspective, okay, she ate a bit of junk, but she's working out regularly, so all in all, she's healthy, right? So I did that for a very long time. Then I basically got introduced to laxatives as a way to lose weight. I can't remember how exactly, but one thing I do remember, and this actually still goes on, I'm pretty sure, is whenever we do like family gatherings, so we'd have like loads of family friends over, loads of Egyptian families over. Basically, it was the Egyptian crew in Cardiff, and this still happens now, and I still sometimes do this as well. Basically, we'd all go over each other's houses, like some people, we'd have turns who's inviting who, and it'd be the mums and their daughters, so all of us girls are friends, and so are our mums, so it was really nice for us to all get together on the weekends and that. And obviously, like, Egyptians eat a lot of food, and they make bloody beautiful food. So anyway, after we'd eat dinner and that, we'd all get mugs out and make tea. And we all used to call this tea poo tea. And it's basically a laxative tea that you'd get from Egypt, which is pretty much like all those tummy fit tea things advertised, you see all over Instagram advertised. It's like the same shit, really. And we would get these teas, and we would sometimes, like, depending on how intense we wanted it or how much we ate, sometimes we'd use 3 tea bags in one. And it just tasted absolutely disgusting, though. That's the difference with these new ones and then the old ones. The taste on the older ones is so vile, so that, you know, when something tastes disgusting, you really feel like it's working more, right? Our noses, and we'd gulp it down, and then basically we'd all be on the shitter the whole night, shitting everything we ate out, thinking that, this is great, because we've eaten all this amazing food, but we haven't gained any of the calories from it, so we're not going to put on any weight. Amazing! Wow! But obviously this was very, very unhealthy, and a few of us girls, I think, were quite addicted to it. It's something that we'd rely on for most of the week whenever we've had like a big meal. And I'd even request, like, can you get me a box of poo tea from Egypt? Obviously I wouldn't need to do that now, because I'll just go on somebody's Instagram account and see what's advertised. Do you get me? And those companies are constantly sending me their fit teas and their skinny teas and all this shit, and they're always asking me, like, do you want a paid sponsorship collaboration? And I'm just looking at them like, no, this is laxative tea. You are gonna make me end up having an eating disorder again. Get lost. So anyway, I was introduced to the tea, and we were doing that for ages. And whilst I was having the tea, I was also doing the exercise, still being completely controlled by food and all that stuff, right? And during all of this time, over these few years, when I look back at pictures, I mean, I was a bit chubby. I was like chubby, but I was cute chubby. I wasn't overweight. I would never say I was overweight. I was probably like the same amount of chubbiness that I have, you know, when I was like full term pregnant with Hannah, or just after giving birth and I was put on a bit of weight, or even now, like, so I mean, I definitely wasn't overweight. I was still, you know, blossoming as a woman and all that stuff, and still going through puberty and all that anyway, so like, it doesn't really matter. But when I look back at pictures, I'm like, wow, I wasn't even fat, man. And I literally thought I was humongous. I would look in the mirror and just think I'm absolutely huge. And even like, I knew I wasn't like morbidly obese, or even, I actually never actually thought I was obese or even really overweight. I would just always look at myself and be like, you are really chunky and just like big. You're just such a big person. Your body shape isn't even normal. Like, what is this weird body shape you have? Like, I even used to think, even there's girls that are fatter than you, but their body shape is way more nicer and more normal. Like, their bums look normal in trousers. My bum looks so weird in trousers. You know, I would literally think like that. And I'd always think like, I don't have nice pointy shoulders. That was something that I always remember. I don't have pointy shoulders. Why don't I have pointy shoulders? Like, such a weird thing. And I'd always do my scarf like this as well. Because in my head, that was like me making my face look slimmer. And you know, when you do have chub in your face there, it can make it look slimmer if it's quite loose and kind of like draping nicely around your face. But if you've got cheeks there and you do it quite tightly, you can imagine what that might look like. Bigger, more suffocated kind of cheeks, do you know what I mean? So anyway, it was a very, very awkward phase I was going through. This is like 3-4 years in the making now of going through this crazy exercise bulimia, as well as now shitting bulimia. So fast forward, I'm like 18, 19, I start taking things into my own hands basically, and I end up going to the supermarket and just deciding to get myself laxatives from the actual just supermarket. And I think it was because I accidentally came across them, and I came across like dark chocolate laxative, and it's actually in the bit in Asda's, the pharmacy bit, where you can get like laxative pills just off the shelf. Like, you don't actually need to be 18 or anything to pick it up. There was nobody there over the counter to check or anything. Like, anybody can go and pick these up and leave Asda with them. I don't know if that's changed now or not. Yeah, so I found these like chocolate laxatives, and I would just pick them up and be like, oh, amazing, I'll just eat chocolate, win-win, and shit it all out. And it can be part of my binge, but I'm also shitting everything out. So I'll eat loads and loads of junk. I can eat whatever I want all day basically, and just poo it all out, and I'll be fine. And it was really crazy actually, because I started doing the chocolate thingy, and I actually hate dark chocolate, but I would take it anyway and just hold my nose. And by this point, I was literally just binging every day. It was really bad. It wasn't even like I'm gonna binge on a Thursday, and I was just binging every day and pooing every day. So imagine this, I'm eating this much food every day, and I'm not kidding when I say it's literally at least 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. And then I'm having all of these laxatives, and it started off with just like one packet of laxatives, which is probably like, I don't know, 8 squares of chocolate and 2 portions of that, so like 16 squares of chocolate. And I would just eat, first of all, it would start with just the 8 squares. And by the way, the recommended was only like 1 square, And then if you're really constipated, to have 2 squares. So there I was having 8 every day to begin with. And this is straight after using the poo tea, by the way. So the poo tea and the tea bags, been there, done that. Then I moved on to 8 squares of laxative chocolate every night, which then gradually moved on to the 16, which was the whole packet, which then gradually moved on to the larger pack that you can get, which had like double the amount, and I'd have that every single night, which if you think about it is insane and incredibly dangerous. But there I was just having it because it was so easy to get it. So obviously in my head I'm like, well, if it's that easy, it's not going to really do anything to me, it's just going to make me poo like crazy, whatever. And I literally would be sitting on the toilet every single night with the worst stomach pains ever, and it would be to the point where like nothing's actually coming out, like there's no poo left in me, but I'm just on the toilet feeling like I have to poo.
Are you talking about poo?
Yeah, but really there was like no poo to come out.
This is a great video.
Yeah. Women's Day. So that's the chocolate laxative, tried and tested. Then I got a bit sick of the chocolate laxative because it was dark chocolate, and I was like, oh, it's actually making me like, I'm really like getting sick of it, dark chocolate. So then what I moved on to is a natural laxative. Now this was still in pill form, and it was just right next to the chocolate one on the counter. But it said it was natural, so I was like, I'll just go and get the natural ones, I'll be fine, it's not gonna affect my health or anything. So I moved on to those, and I was straight away having, because in there you get like 2 sheets of the pills, straight away having at least 1 sheet every single night, which is about 15 pills a night, which then moved on to the whole packet, which is about 30, which is crazy. And then I got really sick of those because they made me like gag after a bit because they tasted like grass and like herby stuff. So then I just moved on to these really tiny pills called Dulcolax, I can't remember. And they were tiny small yellow pills, and you could get up to 40 in the packet. And I literally got to the stage, guys, where I was having 40 pills a night. I'm not even lying to you, I was downing all of the pills. And fast forward again, I've finished A-levels and I'm attempted university. This is going through my first attempt at uni, all my part-time jobs. But now, at this point now, I'm working in Vodafone call center, and I was there for ages, and I'd even like do it shamelessly in front of my friends. I'd be like, oh, should we go to Sainsbury's and get loads of junk at lunchtime? And they'd be like, yeah, sick. And then because like the shifts were so long, man, they were like 10-hour shifts, and you're just sitting at the desk all day, bored out your flipping brains, talking to customers that really just piss you off, and it was just a horrible place to work. So you'd be bored out your brains all day, you go down to Sainsbury's, get loads of junk, and you just have it around your desk so that you're like eating and on the phone and just not bored, right? So I'd just be like constantly eating all day, as well as constantly taking a pill. So and in my head I'd be like, okay, so I've eaten, the last time I ate was like half an hour ago, let me eat this stuff for the next half hour, and then I'll take another 2 pills because that would get rid of, those 2 pills will get rid of the food I've eaten in the last hour. Like, it just wasn't normal what I was doing. But I was literally on 40 pills a night for like probably close to a year, I reckon. And that's never mind the amount of pills and all the other laxative stuff I was taking beforehand, as well as all the exercise and the up and down weight and the numerous amount of crash diets in between and just mad stuff like that. And the numerous amount of times I would cancel going out on my friends and just have breakdowns because I can't find things to wear because I look fat. To all my friends back then who were always like, why is Dina never answering her phone? Oh, they just cancelled on us again, they just didn't turn up. It's literally down to that, because I'd be like, I got nothing to wear, I look fat. And it wouldn't even be just like normal, oh, I've got nothing to wear, oh, let me try and find something. It would just be like, I literally look fat. There is no way on this planet I am stepping out of this house. I'm not even stepping out of my room, except to go downstairs and get more chocolate. Or to get a massive cheese sandwich, or to get 10 bowls of cereal. Do you know what I mean? It's just insane. And then there was this one crash diet I would always do, which is now known as the military diet. And actually quite a lot of people do it, but if you think about it, it's actually not healthy, I think, to do at all, especially if you're a vulnerable person or somebody who struggles with your weight or body image in general, because if it does work, which it probably will, because it's just a 3-day crash diet, then, you know, when you see that instant result, you want more of it. And so instead of it turning into a 3-day diet, it turns into a 6-day diet or a 7-day diet, etc., etc. And at one point, actually, my first ton of weight that I shed was actually from doing this military diet, and not just doing it once in the course of 3 days. I literally did it continuously in the course of like 2 months. That was all I knew. It was like dried bread with beans, black tea, grapefruit. And obviously for me, that was like, oh wow, I'm actually looking quite good. I'm quite slim. And so I just kind of became addicted to it. And I was doing this military stuff continuously, as well as exercising, as well as doing the laxative stuff. And then on my days off, I would binge like a mad woman, okay? I was going through all that until one day I actually picked up a magazine, probably for my lunch break at work or something. And I remember there was an interview in there with, you know, the person who plays Sonia in EastEnders. I don't know what her real name is, but her. And the interview was obviously about the real person, not Sonia from EastEnders. And she was talking about how she'd always struggled with her weight and how she actually had an eating disorder where she was taking and was addicted to laxatives. And she pretty much described me, I felt like, or a massive part of it was, I felt like, speaking to me. Because she literally said in there, I ended up taking about 40 pills a night. And then what happened is she had to go to hospital, and because it was affecting her heart. And when I read that bit, I was like, oh my God. Here I am. I was probably sitting there popping the pills there and then as well. Here I am taking these pills like it's nothing. And this woman has had to go to hospital because of it. If I'm not careful, that is going to be me. And actually, just before reading that, I remember for a while I'd been experiencing like pains in my chest and like getting out of breath very easily, and just, you know, I just felt like not everything was quite right there. And that was obviously probably down to that. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I can only guess, right? During all these years, by the way, guys, I never seeked like professional help or therapy or any of that stuff. It was never something that would have ever been on my radar. I mean, alhamdulillah, I'm not taking any kind of laxatives or anything like that. But I do still binge. I do. Like, my fat days aren't normal, and the way I think about it isn't normal. Like, I literally say to Sid, oh, should we have fat day? And when I say fat day, I literally mean, okay, now we need to go to the supermarket, and I need to eat as much as I can. Not even like fat day as in like, should we treat ourselves today? So today maybe we can have fish and chips for dinner. That's not what a fat day is in my head. In my head, it's like from the morning, okay, what we eating, like, it's just not normal. And that's how you know you've got a problem. You know, for most people, a cheat day is like literally, oh, should we have brownies and ice cream for dessert? And that's it. And dinner was like salmon with asparagus, by the way. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real shit here, okay? So anyway, yeah, when I read that bit in the magazine, I was like, oh shit, I really need to stop this. So what I actually did was I subconsciously, I didn't even realize, actually, I feel like God was really, really on my side here, because I genuinely don't know how I did it. And I mean, I know I'm not fully I'm nowhere near 100% normal about food now, but I'm just glad I'm off the laxative situation and the crazy exercise situation where you feel like, I literally was at a point, remember, where I literally felt like I cannot go out unless I get in at least 2 hours of mad cardio, otherwise I won't fit into my jeans. Like, I literally would sit there and think I will not fit into my trousers, and I wouldn't want to even attempt fitting into my trousers because I was too scared to. I pretty much decided to wean myself off it, and how I did that was, so, you know, I was on the yellow Dulcolax pills. I basically stopped using those and then went back. I basically went into reverse mode. So basically I went, and this probably doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but I basically started using the natural ones, and then I went back to the chocolate ones, and then I went back to the tea bags, and then I went back to just the exercise. And then I think what happened is, by this time I'm like 20, 21, 22, I'd met Sid, loads of other things changing in my life kind of thing. And then, so when maturity kind of kicks in, or when you get busier because you're actually like working on a career now, and because, you know, when you're younger, you're still like in education, right? But then as you get older and the like actual life responsibility starts kicking in, I think for me that's what happened. And that's the thing that kind of helped me, for example, not have time actually to do that much exercise, not have time to let it control my life like that, which actually I'm very lucky for, because for some people, it's not that easy to get out of. And I know like my head is still very much eating disorder head. I think I could safely say it's controlled. Even Sid sometimes just like, wow. But he won't get it because he hasn't really had an eating disorder. Although I'm pretty sure there are plenty of guys who have been through eating disorders or body dysmorphia, you know, loads of things that are in that kind of circle. Rewinding back to the Egyptian family friends and the tea the pootie. It was something that we were all doing. So it wasn't just like the kids hiding it from the parents kind of thing. Like the parents were doing it, not the men, but like the women of the families were all doing it. And so it was just kind of seen like a normal thing. But then we don't realize that actually what we're doing is really, really bad. And also the message that we're pushing down to our girls is really, really awful. But then also not realizing the bigger picture here, and actually your daughters, me as well, are literally going through this eating disorder, and you haven't realized that they're addicted to this bloody pootie. And look what that can lead on to. I got lucky, basically, alhamdulillah, that I managed to like control it and now I'm not addicted to any kind of laxatives anymore. But what about girls who like aren't able to control it, or aren't able to somehow miraculously just get off it by themselves? There's just so many potential avenues of danger when we don't realize from an early stage and put a stop to it there and then, or take it seriously from early on. This is another thing I feel like, you know, when a Muslim girl suddenly puts on her hijab and she's going through like eating disorders and body image, sometimes I feel like a lot of us feel like we can't talk about it, because technically wearing the hijab is supposed to kind of steer you away from caring so much on how you look and not falling into the pressures of society's ideal of beauty and all that kind of thing. But in reality, it's very hard not to feel like that when you're, you know, when you're basically living in this society and it is your surroundings. Just because you wear the hijab doesn't mean that you don't struggle with that. In fact, some girls might struggle more because of wearing the hijab, and that's a very real situation. And I think it's not acceptable anymore for people or the older generation to say, well, that means your iman or your faith isn't strong enough and you should really not care about your image and stuff, because if you were close to God, you wouldn't care about things like this. I don't think it's acceptable to say this anymore, because at the end of the day, eating disorder is a mental health issue. And this is another thing that Muslims seem to like not talk about properly, is mental health, which is a very, very serious situation and happens a lot in our communities, but people don't talk about it. So half the time there's no safe environments to talk about it and to deal with it, and so there's no solutions ever. People are just kind of like living with it, living with consequences. Do you know what I mean? It's just like one big circle that never kind of gets sorted out, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what era we're in, no matter how many years it was back then to how many years fast forward, it's still kind of the same shit going on, because Muslims not even Muslims, just people of like our community, so like even so many other communities as well, they just don't like talking about things if it's going to make the community look bad. Really, you know, we're all humans and we all suffer with all these things, and the only way to help, or the only way to have a solution, is by having open dialogue in a safe environment, guys, and education. I feel like two major things are lacking within our communities in terms of education. And now this is a massive one with Muslims. Sex education is something that really needs to be spoken about very openly, graphically, and incredibly informatively, without idiots going, oh, you can't talk about sex because it's haram. No, if you have a safe environment, an educational one, it's probably the most important thing to teach our youth, especially when you're expecting them to not have sex before marriage and then most likely get married young and start a family as well. And if you want them all to do that with having a successful marriage and having a healthy relationship, but then you don't want to even utter the word sex, is just insane to me. And the second thing is body image, and the connection to that with hijab as well, I think, is another thing that really needs to be taught about properly in schools or college or in the community, in the mosques, in halakha time, wherever it is. It needs to be spoken about to both the boys and the girls. Yes, so anyway, guys, it's International Women's Day, and this is just to all the girls or women who are going through similar situations, who didn't even realize that this was a problem, but they just knew that it was controlling their lives and it's really annoying them. This is just to let you know that it is actually very common, and it can be controlled. The one thing I would definitely advise, though, is to seek professional help. I know it just sounds so like, oh, okay, whatever. But honestly, like nowadays, you can get so many great people who can help, so many people who are on the same level that can help. Like, I'll leave links in the description to loads of organizations you can talk to. And I think also it's really important to be open. If your parents, let's say, you know, it's something you have tried talking about to your mum, but she's kind of just been like, oh, well, just stop taking it, but not taking it seriously, find somebody else to talk to. If your doctor's not taking you seriously, find another doctor. You know what I mean? There's so much on offer to help us now that it would be silly not to try and use that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I will see you on my next one. So thanks for watching. Until next time, bye! By the way, standard chai latte, mate.